Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 287th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings, and joining me so far this evening we have Dave the Hater Lowback, Andy Patterson, Gabe Lewis, and Joe O'Neill, assistant editor at irishboxing.com. I have to say that after every time I mention your name there, Joe. Right, let's get stuck straight in, guys. We had action over the weekend of various levels. Bryant Jennings, Alexander Dimitrenko. If you're expecting a 45-minute to 1 hour review of that show, then you'll be disappointed because it wasn't the best, to be honest. Also, next week, there's not a hell of a lot, as tends to happen over these summer months. We will find something to talk about, though. No doubt a bit of Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder action. Bellew of the Weeks is coming up later as well. We've had to call the casuals because I've got sent a hell of a load of nominations, as we tend to have. Andy, we'll move on to you first, shall we? Don't want to disrespect Frampton too much, but his win over Luke Jackson probably takes, second place. Precedence goes to Tyson Fury against Francesco Pianetta, mainly because not really Fury's win over Pianetta, which was a drab at times, sometimes functional performance over 10 rounds, but it was what happened after that. We're all getting soaked. Not you, because you're in the stands. Me, a little bit. Tommy and his dad were definitely getting soaked in Windsor Park last night. But Fury and Wilder is on. Tell me, Andy. What's happening? Fury against Wilder.
Well, I didn't really hear what was getting said in the ring last night. I thought the sound system was pretty poor, especially for us in the stands and that. But I'm happy the fight's been made. I'm going to say. I expect Fury to keep some sort of way of improving anyway. I know he's been at the ring for a long time. Looking slimmer again. I don't know if he's going to take any more weight off. I think he's maybe about 10, 12 pounds over what he was when he fought Vladimir Klitschko. He got tagged a couple of times last night. To be honest, it was really hard sometimes to kind of keep an eye on the fight, actually, because it was just, there was times it was just absolutely boring to watch. I did say last week I wanted him to kind of step in and try and end it early. Never done that. I don't know if it's the case. Maybe he wanted to go rounds. I really don't know. But I just think, just send a wee statement out there last night to the world, to Deontay Wilder, to Joshua, and that. Just go out there, stop your opponent, look good. They really do it, okay, we had a wee bit of shades of Ali in the corner there last night and stuff like that, but and he was spinning off pretty well, boxed pretty well at times and that as well, but I did think he got tagged, and again, maybe he's just fighting to the level of his opposition, I really don't know, but as for the Wilder fight, I'm happy with that. I expect him to outbox him, but he's going to have to be absolutely 100% on the ball, because saw it with Ortiz. Ortiz was winning that fight against Wilder. He looked for that right hand all night long, and he only needs to land it once. I really do believe that if he lands it once, Fury could go. So just do what he did against Vlad. It's okay, it's boring to watch, but just do what you got to do. But he's gonna have to be absolutely on the ball. And I'm glad that I don't know if I know people have been. I'm reading some comments on that on Twitter today. People saying it's not been signed and all that sort of stuff. I really don't know. Showtime were actually tweeting it out last night, saying it's on pay-per-view in America as well. So I'm assuming the deal's done there in principle, and they've got an agreement somewhere along the lines. But 10th of November in Vegas, it should be a good one.
Andy, we'll come back to you about the shenanigans and the night out, also Frampton very shortly. MB in the chat there, shout out to everybody in the chat as well, by the way, hit the thumbs up. MB says that Pianetta was landing a few shots on Fury. He thinks that Wilder will spark him out. I asked for a bit of feedback earlier on the Facebook page and also on Twitter. Max Stokes said, I'll tell you this for free. Tyson Fury is cashing out. Quite a lot of talk of cashing out, actually. Hashtag boring as fuck, says Max Stoke. Also, we had a comment in, let me have a look, from Ollie's boxing handle. He says 100% cash grab, Fury gets iced and then retires. Ted Stryker said it's the Hay comeback all over again. So he's making similarities with the David Hay comeback recently. And finally, Brian G was making a few comments, and so was, who else did we have actually? I think Colin Roberts was saying something as well, quite similar to the old cash grab thing. Cash grab as well, says Colin Roberts. I've lost the comment right now. Oh, yeah, Jason Chukwu, actually. I don't know if he's in the chat yet, Mr. Chukwu. He says Fury needs to go back with Uncle Peter, and I think he needs 2 more fights before Wilder. This Wilder rush seems like a Frank Warren cash grab, and then if Wilder sparks Fury, Frank Warren will just dump Fury on the shelves. Hey to Dave Lowback, I was at the press conference last night. A lot of talk over venues. Las Vegas. Fury kept on repeating Las Vegas, Las Vegas. I'm not going to Las Vegas to get knocked out. This was all after he'd sang American Pie, by the way. Quite the character, as usual. But he said Las Vegas. It looks like it's going to be November the 10th. Ben Thorns was mentioning that as well. So was Andy just now. What do you think about Fury against Wilder, Dave? A lot of cash grab talk from the guys at home. Do you agree with them, or do you think that Fury is in it for the long haul?
Well, it's a pity Kurt's not on because he is the big cynic here. He's always had a sort of love-hate relationship with Frank Warren, I think, and he recently posted something about a fight that was meant to be made years ago between Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora, and Frank said it's done, and Chisora said, "Oh, this is going to be great." Never happened, obviously. So I mean, I can see where he's coming from, in that it's right to be skeptical of Frank Warren. But in this case, we do have both sides face to face saying it's made, it's done, it's ready to go. Showtime too. Um, Indications are this fight is actually on, which uh, is unexpected, especially since most people I talked to said, "Oh, it's just talk. Fury's just trying to get his name in the press, trying to embarrass Joshua." Well, if this comes off, they really will have embarrassed Joshua and Eddie, because they pissed around, ended up with fucking Fat Povetkin, who just got rocked by Price, and now you got the lineal heavyweight and another belt holder facing off. Probably it's between those three guys, right? Those three are the top guys, the top question marks in the division, and two of them are going to fight. Joshua's left out in the cold, so I think it's kind of funny. Hopefully it does happen. I mean, it looks to me like it's going to happen. I think both guys definitely want it, and I'd like to see. I liked the mutual respect on. I mean, they talk shit. I still remember back when Wilder posted a selfie and said, "What you think?" and Fury just responds, "You ugly cunt." Uh, that was they've been trash talking each other in, I think, a good natured fashion for years. Um, they do respect each other, and I respect both guys actually for wanting to prove themselves to be the best. And also, it's a big money fight. I mean, there's no denying both of these two guys are pretty big names and can sell a fight. I'm still taken aback by how far Wilder's come in this division, honestly. Every time I think he's gonna finally get exposed or upset, he wins. He's undefeated, obviously. So, and this is actually an interesting fight because of about a year or two ago, I would have picked Fury to school Wilder, but there's a couple factors here. One, Wilder's a little better than I thought. I mean, he's relentless. He's in phenomenal shape. He can take a beating a little bit and come back. He's also unorthodox, and I mean, it looks sloppy, but that sort of awkwardness allows him to land some weird right hands that, I mean, you wouldn't see coming from a guy like Vlad, because Vlad's like very basic. On the other hand, Fury is also see, I liked what I saw last night in terms of, I liked it better than his other comeback fight, but overall, I think there's still some work needs to be done. I agree with Chuck Wu. He should be back with Peter Fury. That there's always that concern though. Can Peter Fury travel? I don't know.
No.
Okay. Well, what if they have it in Saudi Arabia or on a 747?
Could you imagine the Fury entourage landing in Saudi Arabia? They'd never come out again.
Well, they might come out covered in blood with like. We'll just stop there. I would say Fury was a little bit sloppy defensively. Now, he's never been a big puncher, so I wasn't too disappointed that we didn't see the stoppage, but he did get caught with some shots because it like with Vlad, it was about the shots that he didn't get hit with that won him the fight. He landed like 4 jabs and won a round, and won almost every round doing that. There were a few rounds where he did a little bit more, landed a good left hook at times. But I mean, it's for Fury, it's his weird style, and especially weird at heavyweight, where it's the punches he doesn't get hit with that really count, because his defense is probably maybe the best in the division. It's hard to tell though, because he doesn't fight very many high level guys.
Do you think he should have got the stoppage last night, Dave? Do you think he should have gone for the stoppage?
He should. I mean, yeah, if it's a guy that Kevin Johnson is stopping, you should probably stop him. And
but the narrative, Dave, the narrative was about getting the rounds in. They all said that afterwards. There was one point as well, which would probably bear this fact out. I know people always say when they don't get the stoppage, "Oh, I wanted to get the rounds in." But in about round 5 or round 6, I think it was, we were sitting right behind Fury's corner, and I think it was Fury's brother or his cousin, started shouting out, "To pick up the pace, Tyson, pick up the pace." And Ben Davison, who is Fury's trainer, went over to the guy and says, "No, don't shout, pick up the pace. I'm happy with what's going on. And the plan they said was to get the 10 rounds.
Interesting. Okay, so well, if you listen to Ben, maybe Fury's been here, getting mixed signals here from his team, because Ben, it sounds like Ben wanted him to go the 10, but judging by Fury's performance, he really did turn it on in the 6th round. So that would be right around the time that his cousin or whatever told him to step it up. He got Pianetta on the ropes and just kind of worked him. And that inside fighting by Fury is something we don't see very much, but I think he's good at it. And that's what won him the fight with Steve Cunningham when he was dropped and hurt. He just like mauled him on the inside. It was Riddick Bowe style. Like he can do both, which I like to see. I think Wilder might make him go to that extra dimension. Vlad didn't, which was shocking to me. I thought he was definitely going to have to use that inside game that he has against Vlad, but he didn't.
Yeah, but Vlad couldn't cope. He was completely confused by Fury's style, his mannerisms, everything, wasn't he?
Yeah, he didn't force him to change. Vlad didn't do anything different for the whole 12. What else was I saying? I can stop talking now. I've said plenty.
Stop talking, Dave. Stop talking. We'll have you on talking later, though. Don't worry about that. Colin Roberts is talking about the cash out as well. He's either hiding the real ability or he's going to get sparked badly. I hope it's the former of the two. Will Fury school Wilder? That's the question, I suppose, Gabe. I mean, do I enjoy watching Tyson Fury fight? If I'm honest, not particularly. Most of the time, no. I'll probably get pelters for this, but on the whole, if I had to choose, if I had to watch Joshua or Fury, I'd probably prefer to watch Joshua, to be honest with you. I know a lot of people won't be happy about that, but I mean, early Fury was great fun. The guy who boxed Pajkic, Further, Rogan, but he was defensively lax and vulnerable all the time, so I can understand why they changed his style. It wasn't a style designed for longevity back in those early days, but I'd rather watch the Fury Gabe that fought Cunningham than the Fury that fought Kevin Johnson or the Fury that fought Francesco Pianetta from a personal, selfish point of view. Anyway, nobody wants to know what I think, Gabe. They all come on the pod to hear what you think. Tell me first of all about the Pianetta fight. Are you happy that Fury got the rounds in? Is that exactly what he needs going in against someone like Deontay Wilder? Because that type of fight could be a firefight against Wilder, couldn't it?
It damn well could be. And if it turns into a firefight, he's gonna lose. Last night the fight to me was, it was kind of boring. I don't know. I mean, in one respect, knowing what we know about guys going into big fights, off long layoffs or off really, really bad tune-ups where they're not getting a lot of rounds. I mean, it makes sense to go rounds. But also at the same time, I mean, you always have the counterpoint of if you go rounds, then what happens? The possibilities there to get hurt, to get cut, to whatever scenario there is that would delay the fight longer or possibly make him vulnerable. And so to me, it's kind of one of those things. I understand the purpose of getting rounds, but also, I mean, I think the rounds have to come with some challenge to him. He's not getting pushed. I don't think he was pushed last night. I don't think he was ever in a spot where he was uncomfortable. So I think whenever you're talking about going rounds, in my mind, it would look better and it would probably do more for him if he was going rounds and they were at least somewhat challenging. Last night I never felt like he was really in trouble. He did get hit with some punches, but he wasn't even afraid of them. I think that was a big part of it. Like he wasn't, he was more defensive, like you said, than he has been in the past in his early days. But I think that's more of a mindset change than anything. I don't think he was worried about last night about getting hit, because you did see him get kind of lazy a few times and take a punch. So overall, I don't disagree completely with the approach of getting rounds in. I think it's good. It's going to help his conditioning. It's going to help him get in shape and get the feel for it and get his flow back. But also at the same time, I mean, getting rounds with a fight like last night really is, I mean, you'd be better off sparring, having some decent sparring partners and doing stuff like that than going rounds like that. Because it may be good for him, but it looks bad. It looks bad. It doesn't do anything for fans. It doesn't do anything for anyone else. I think Fury is one of those guys that only looks good if he is challenged. I mean, think about the other fights that he's been in where, there was some chance of danger or, he had something to prove. Last night he didn't have anything to prove. We all knew he was going to win. There wasn't even really a question. And so to me, for him to look his best, for him to fight like Tyson Fury used to fight, he's going to have to be in a fight where there's a challenge. And, I thought early on in his career he looked good because, again, he had something to prove. Here recently, nothing to prove, just getting warm-up rounds. I think the Wilder fight will bring out the best in him. I'm excited for that fight. Big fan of both guys. Tyson Fury, my only concern for him in the fight is, like we've seen the last couple of fights, if he hasn't really pushed it seems like, to get anybody out. But if he does, he's never really been a guy with huge power. So, one of those things. But as far as the rounds versus no rounds, I say it was okay, I suppose. Do I think it's a cash out? No, I think the guy is perfectly capable of beating Wilder. He's going to have to weather some moments, though. He's going to get hit, and he's going to take a punch on the chin, and he's going to get wobbled at some point. He's just going to have to be able to find his way through it. So he's going to have to be prepared. And I think he can do it. The matter of if he actually does do it or not, it's going to be completely different. So I'm actually leaning towards Wilder on this one, but I don't have a preference over who wins. I'd be ecstatic for either one of them.
Yeah, for the record.
How crazy would it be if Deontay Windmill Wilder became lineal heavyweight champ of the world? I mean, that'd be amazing.
Well, Dave, I think you were right on the money, and this is something that I've said before when we were talking about him. I think maybe it was after the Ortiz fight. But his awkwardness is what makes him so unique and so dangerous, because he's so unorthodox that you really – like, how do you game plan for a guy like Wilder? Because you don't see a guy like Wilder until you get in the ring with Wilder. So I think it would be phenomenal. I mean, it would do wonders for boxing in the States. And I think it would do great for boxing to have a perfect setup for the man versus the guy who claims to be the man. And, I think it's a perfect setup. I mean, really, honestly. And it goes either way. If Tyson Fury wins, it's great. If Wilder wins, it's great. You can see different scenarios playing out there. But, I mean, I'm really excited for it.
Can I just add as well, actually, that I think okay, they've maybe put a blinder here, but obviously Tyson Fury is going to be saying that he wants 50-50 for like a potential fight with Joshua. So, I go back to when Hay beat Valya for the WBA title, and that basically gave him 50-50 talks for the Vladimir Klitschko fight. Fury wins this, he's got the WBC title, he's then got something to bargain with, and it really does strengthen his bargaining position after that. So you're going to have if he wins, obviously, you're going to have the potential of two Brits fighting for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. And to be honest, it's not happening next year, boys. I think we're going to be looking at 2020.
And if Wilder were to win, I mean, after all the shit that's going on between him and Matchroom, who knows? I mean, he's going to be in a position where he's like, yeah, fuck them. They don't want to fight, and that really strengthens his position.
Yeah, for the record, I don't think it's a cash grab, to be honest, by Fury. But if the fight happens, I just can't envisage. I don't know if Fury can keep out the way of Wilder for 12 rounds. I know that people paint him as an elusive fighter now, but at some point during that fight, this ain't Klitschko, Wilder at some point is going to get to Fury and take him into that place of uncertainty, that corridor of chaos, as I like to call it, where anything goes, and Fury's going to have to stand and fight with him. And I can see Wilder hitting him hard and knocking him out. That's the way I think the fight's going to go. Not from an agenda reason. I don't give a shit either way, to be honest with you. If Fury wins and then he'll hopefully fight Joshua, that would be great. But I just think that Wilder's going to catch him at some point, and he's going to have to go toe-to-toe with Wilder at some point. And the way Wilder fought against Luis Ortiz gives me greater confidence that Wilder can carry this work rate and this power late on into the fight as well, which I think makes it all wrong and all dangerous for Fury. Joe, let's go to you. I've got a question from Greg Cross. Just before we get stuck into the Tyson Fury stuff, tell me about TJ Doheny during the week. Went to Japan, unfancied, it must be said, against Ryosuke Iwasa, and he comes away with Carl Frampton's former belt, the IBF Super Bantamweight title. I didn't actually see the fight myself. I know Teddy Atlas was having a bit of a moan about the scores. Brief rundown on Mr. Doheny's win there, Joe?
Yeah, very good win. It was a very close fight. I had him winning by 2 rounds. I had him winning 7-5. The majority of people I saw online had him winning 7-5, 8-4. Atlas sort of had that thing where he set the stall out in the first round, and if you don't sort of play by his tactics, he's scoring it against you. Like Doheny was much busier, and he was smart about it as well. Like he wasn't normally, a lot of the time when you see the sort of the Joe Gallagher tactic of like a challenger starts to try to outlast the champion, whereas Doheny actually won a lot of the early rounds and then finished very strongly as well. Yeah, it was weird because Iwasa like sort of looked like he had another gear to go, but Doheny just wouldn't let him, and like I hadn't seen Doheny that much either. Just he's so hard to get any sort of footage on, and like you knew he had power, but I was sort of expecting him to try maul Iwasa, where it was almost like he just like fought about 7 different ways in the fight. Like there were times where he was trying to rush him, then other times he was standing off. Like he just didn't let Iwasa get into any sort of a rhythm. And yeah, close fight. It's probably gonna although Iwasa accepted the decision, and I've heard that he's going to be retiring now, but they're like, for TJ, who's never fought in Ireland, like he's now sort of just carved himself out a niche where he can fight in Japan probably for the next 5 years and make millions probably. He reminded me a bit of Kiko Martinez after beating Bernard Dunn, and just kept being brought back to Ireland and Britain. That there are a lot of lads in Japan around the way. Tomoki Kameda was in the ring right afterwards and squared up to Doheny. So there's probably going to be fights there. I know ESPN picked it up because they want to sort out a unification with Dogbo, but if you're Doheny's team, I think he's going to end up fighting in Japan a lot over the next couple of years.
Yeah, well done to TJ. Good win for him. Just going over to this Windsor Park show then, Joe. We'll go on to Fury Wilder in a minute. Just leading in on the Pianetta fight, Greg Cross was asking a question. He said, do you think there was lots of debate on whether Tyson went the distance on purpose or not? I mentioned earlier Ben Davison giving the instructions. Do the pod think he could have stopped him? Therefore, he didn't because he couldn't. I think that he could have stopped Pianetta, Joe, but I think there were a number of reasons. He wanted to get the rounds in the bank, but he didn't want to gas out also. And I don't think that stopping Pianetta would have been as easy as some people made out. A lot of people were saying it was as if all of a sudden he could have put together a heavy 3-punch combination and Pianetta would have gone. I don't think the stoppage was that easy, but I think if he had to put his foot on the gas, he could have probably got Pianetta out of there.
Yeah, there were times when he did sort of seem to put his foot on the gas when he back him up to the ropes and lean on him, and I'm assuming that was maybe he stood off there after, but like as you're saying, Pianetta does have a level of durability, and while he hasn't had the greatest results recently, like he still was a step up from Stefan Saveri. Yeah, it was an odd fight to watch because I was watching it from home, and the BT commentators very, very positive, and where it's the actual like reaction in the arena it was quite a boring fight, and it seemed, normally I'm very positive about BT and Box Nation, but it seemed like sort of they were reading off a script to a degree. Like people weren't entertained, and they were trying to make it out that Fury was doing something special, and like people weren't appreciating what was happening in the ring. But like, to be honest, he was getting caught. He didn't like he looked nowhere near as good as he was before, and that's to be expected. He's been away for 2.5 years, and was it Jason Chukwu you said in the chat made the perfect one of like probably 2 more fights is what he needs, and to get back with someone like Peter, like you can't really take any, like even though it was a step up, like you still can't really take anything from that. Like, and there are to a degree shades of David Hay about it. Like you have to question in his own head. He as a phrase that I've been hearing going around over the last few hours is like daring to be great, and he probably is genuinely thinking that himself. But like it's just weird. I still find it hard to believe, and I know the fight isn't signed yet, but it looked like it's almost there. But I can't believe that it's actually going to be Wilder next.
Well, I was wondering, Joe, whether a lot of the positivity was obviously BT and the knowledge that the Wilder fight was coming next. They weren't the only positive ones. Richard Swig was one of the sort of lone voices. He came up on Facebook and he said, when he came back, I thought Tyson looked a fat mess, but the improvement has been startling. And now I'm a believer, says Richard. I think he'll beat Wilder. I was nowhere near thinking that at the start of the year. So he seems to think the weight loss, the rounds that he's got against Pianetta and against Safari have pushed Tyson somewhere close to back to his best, and he fancies Tyson against Wilder. Where do you stand on that fight, Joe?
Maybe I'm overplaying the role of Peter Fury, but I do think that sort of discipline that his uncle gave him is key to the Klitschko win and the Chisora wins, and I don't think he's going to have that under Ben Davison. And like, I worry that Wilder is easily the heaviest hitter in heavyweight boxing, especially one punch power. And like 36 minutes is a long time, and Wilder carries his power late. So I can't see him staying away. I know he's bigger, but I can't see him not getting hit. Like he was getting hit by Pianetta last night. I just can't see how he stays focused for 36 minutes.
Moving down the undercard, Joe, just before we get our first guest of the evening in, obviously before we go on to the undercard, bit of Frampton-Jackson talk. Luke Jackson, I was a little bit disparaging about him last week. Tough guy. He was sturdy, came in good shape. He had a decent bit of a jab about him. He tried hard, but unfortunately at the end for him, it wasn't meant to be. You know, Frampton's body shots were really catching him, and I thought Frampton's performance was not pitch perfect, but the way he was judging the distance, the range, he did what he had to do against Jackson. And I don't blame him for not stopping him earlier, because he was a tough guy and the head wasn't available. So he had to go down to the body, and it was a crunching finish. And I think the towel came in at just about the right time from the corner as well to stop it.
Yeah. Jackson, like from watching it, it looked like Jackson, after he sort of keeled over from the body shot, and then Frampton landed about 5 shots upstairs, and Jackson sort of dropped his hands, and like he was done by then. Like, I'm not saying he's quitting or anything, but like he had run his race, and the towel came in like about a millisecond after that. Yeah, he lasted longer than I expected anyway, and I think probably Frampton as well. Like I was fully expecting that to not go 4 rounds, but especially with like the undefeated lads, like you don't know what his punch resistance was like, and he was a tough kid. You have to give him credit, but yeah, he was nowhere near world level, and probably Frampton's easiest. That was the most dominant Frampton display since, I don't know, it's probably in 4 or 5 years. Like he's had, like all his opponents since then have been of a higher level. Yeah, it's a shame he didn't get a big name for his Windsor Park fight, but he seemed to enjoy himself. Like he seemed in good form, and now on to Warrington.
Yeah, I'm thinking comparatively, obviously Cazares didn't last long enough, so I'm thinking a comparison would probably be Jeremy Parody. You couldn't really say Avalos, because I thought Avalos was quite competitive for about 3 or even 4 rounds of the fight, and Frampton once he took over, he just got rid of Avalos. So probably Parody was one-sided on this type of scale. Warrington next December, maybe Manchester, Joe, they're talking about?
Yeah, Manchester or London. I think Manchester is preferable to a lot of people. Just the Manchester Arena is a lot better than the O2. I believe. Yeah, again, probably a bit premature with the announcement of the fight and the posters going up. Like when we don't have a date or a venue, and Frampton himself, it was a bit weird. I think Mark McFarland drew attention to that. Frampton's there saying that like, he's going on holidays and he'll talk about it in a week when he gets back, and Warren is shouting out, "It's done, it's done, it's done." Like, not done yet, and you just have to. You just have to have your fingers crossed tightly that it is going to be actually made before December, because we don't want to see that drag out till next April. Because like Frampton noted in the press conference afterwards that he's been kept busy, and especially for someone like him, like he'll admit that like he not goes off the rails in between camps, but he does put on like him staying focused and in the gym and staying busy is what he needs at 31 years of age. So if we can get this by December, nice Christmas, and then April, May, Santa Cruz, Valdez, someone else, and just keep staying busy, because like this is we're coming into the winter of his career. Like he doesn't have many fights left, so a long gap would be very detrimental to him, I think.
Joe, we always love having you on. Just before we let you go, quick rundown of the undercard. Stevie Ward won the BUI Celtic title. I picked Steve Collins last week, so another L for me. Conrad Cummings got a win. Luke Keeler got a win, so I imagine they'll probably have a rematch. Lewis Crocker got some much-needed rounds. Also, I believe that there was a stream being put on by MTK that was obscured by my head. Apologies to everybody watching at home. What was the pick of the undercard briefly, Joe?
It was enhanced by your head, Steve, not obscured. The Cummins did quite well against Gemmen. I thought that was a good fight from what I saw. He heard him and he looked good. Like he sort of was able to attack with that sort of abandon that you haven't really seen from. Like sometimes he seemed caught and got in between styles. Mark McCullough had a good fight against Jordan Ellison. Obviously Carl Greaves was on last week saying that he's likely next for Sam Bowen, but I'm hearing that it might not be, that McCullough has another fight, maybe on the Belfast October 5th show. So we'll see what happens there. Stevie Ward against Steve Collins. Obviously, watching on a stream, not a great stream, and without commentary, you can't really tell. Like, it didn't seem the greatest of fight. Like Ward looked sort of in control, apart from I think it was the start of the 6th where Collins hurt him or at least staggered him. But yeah, that was about it. Crocker. It was a bit of a shame for Crocker that he was live swing and first time he got a live TV show, and they give him Willie Warburton for that fight. Like he's been scoring pretty sensational knockouts, and like you're never going to stop Warburton. So that was and it sounded a bit like a atmosphere killer, but like yeah, definitely good needed rounds. But for a prospect like that, he wants those fights to be happening on the untelevised small halls and the sensational knockouts on TV, if you know what I mean.
It was like a reversal, wasn't it, Joe? Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously Barnes himself. We mentioned Barnes.
Oh no, I forgot about poor old Paddy. Go ahead.
Yeah, tough for Paddy. Like you saw from the opening bell, like the size difference was crazy. Like I know Paddy, it's tough for him to make the weight, but I don't know. Maybe it's his age or something, but like he was a lot smaller than Rosales, who put up that he was almost on weight back on like Monday or Tuesday when he was in Belfast. So, like just maybe move down to light flyweight if he can do it healthily, could be good for him going back. See, sort of a lot of people were saying that his tactics weren't great, but I think that was more due to Rosales not letting him implement any tactics. So he was sort of dragged into a fight that he was dragged into the fight early, and he just couldn't really get out of it. He was actually doing well. Like you could see, technically he was better and tighter and sharper inside, but Rosales just looked so much bigger and stronger. And actually, the 4th round was probably his best up until 3 minutes 3 seconds before the bell. So it's a tough one for Paddy. I know some people are saying just caught by one shot, but I think the writing was a bit on the wall from early on. Like he was dragged into a fight so early.
The nose was bleeding as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, after 2 rounds, like just Rosales was just too big and was always going to break him down. But didn't disgrace himself by any means. But yeah, size might be an issue. Continuing on, we'll see where he goes. Like 31, and David Hay was a bit disparaging him afterwards. But he says that he's going to try again. Maybe just some changes maybe need to be made. Don't know whether it's coaching, tactics, nutrition, or something. But he just like Rosales was just sort of all wrong for him. I know they were daring to be great, as they say, or like taking an opportunity, but just size kills. And
yeah. Pretty much, Joe. Thanks very much. You feel free to stick around if you want to, but it's at Joe_90 over on Twitter. Like I say, if you want to stay on the call, feel free. But if not, thanks very much for your contributions as usual.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Joining us on the call now, we have our first and I think only guest of the evening. It's Lee Connolly. How are you, Lee?
Hi, mate. Yeah, how are you doing? I'm good.
Not too bad. Thanks very much for joining us. We're just talking a little bit of Tyson Fury. Did you get a chance to see him in action last night?
Yeah, I've seen some bits of it. I kind of put it on a live stream and then I got bored of it and then I switched it back on at the end and saw that the same thing was happening. So, yeah.
Not the most exciting, do you think? Is he more of a functional performer when he has to be, Tyson?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's a very fluid mover for a man that size. So you've got to respect that and, you know, the skill that he's showing. But his opponent didn't really seem up to much. And if anything, he did look vulnerable at times, leaving his chin there. And just, I don't know if he was just playing or if he would just stand like that if Wilder was in front of him.
Well, that's the next one, isn't it? Obviously, Wilder got into the ring as well. How do you see that one going? Wilder's got the power, Fury's the boxing ability. It's a tough one to call, maybe.
Yeah, I think if it just comes straight off of that Klitschko win, then you'd probably be saying Fury. But looking at him in his last two performances since he's come back, then I'm just thinking he looks too vulnerable. I think Wilder would knock him out.
Obviously, Lee, you're not the kind of guy who stays off the shelf for too long. Fury's been out for quite a while. 2 years is a long time. Do you think that will catch up on him?
Yeah, massively. And what he's been doing in those 2 years hasn't been helping either. So that's not been good for his body. And, is his mind really in it, or is he just kind of kidding himself?
Lee, you've had 46 fights, obviously a lot of losses on the record. I mean, would you class yourself as a journeyman, or how do you look at it?
Yeah, I think at this stage I'd have to class myself as a journeyman. I kind of used to take a bit of offence to people saying that early on when I was taking away fights. But there is times now where I do realise I'm not going to win it. I'm getting hurt, so I cover up a little bit more than I would have when I first started.
Whenever you first came into the game, what were your aspirations? Did you genuinely think you could have like a shot at sort of domestic titles, or when did the point come when you thought to yourself, I'd be better off going on the road as the opponent here?
Well, right from the beginning, I had a lot of hope that I could do something, but I didn't really realise the business side of things. So I had my debut and I struggled to sell tickets for that. I had one more and I really struggled to sell tickets. So it was at that point, it's either do you want to box away or you've got to sell tickets. So if you can't do that, you're not going to go anywhere.
Pretty early on, they put you in with some decent names. You obviously went in with Sean Dodd, the likes of Paul Appleby, who was a British champion as well. What was it like fighting the likes of Dodd, who's obviously now fighting on Sky Sports, made a bit of a name for himself?
Yeah, I mean, with Dodd, honestly, I had a 4-round tear-up with him in Liverpool, and there was nothing in it. Ryan Rhodes was doing the commentary, and he said, there's nothing in this fight. And so I didn't ever think he'd go on that far, and it's seeing someone like that makes me think, if I had carried on selling tickets, I could be up there where he is now, because there was nothing in that fight between me and him.
People don't realise how big it is to be a ticket seller, do they, on the domestic scene? You don't have to just be a boxer and turn up. You have to go out there, family and friends, Facebook, even selling tickets, in the streets sometimes. Yeah,
I mean, that was massive struggle for me. Because even I didn't really have groups of friends. All my friends are like ones and twos, so I was finishing training, then driving around dropping tickets off till 10 at night. I might do 10 drops, and that might only be 16 tickets. Driving all over Sheffield. Yeah,
you fought Luke Campbell in his third fight, I think it was. And I mean, Luke, what was it like to fight him? Big, tall southpaw, Olympic pedigree.
Yeah, crazy, really, because I came from having 5 amateur bouts and a couple unlicensed, and then that was my first year as a pro. I got stuck in with that Paul Appleby, former British champion, and obviously Luke Campbell. So it was exciting for me, if anything, boxing on Sky. But I probably didn't quite realise how out of my depth I was at the time, so I gave it my everything. But yeah, it was good.
You mentioned the unlicensed scene there. That's obviously not licensed by the British board. Is that the old Malta, current Bieber scene? Is it?
No. What it was is I had 5 amateur bouts when I was like 19, and then I didn't box again for a couple of years. I was just working, and I wanted to get back into it, but I thought I'm a bit late now to do amateurs, so it was just a local unlicensed show that he put fights on, and I just did a few of them.
Have you ever considered, obviously, if you didn't box under the British board, that you would maybe go on one of those Malta shows? Has that ever crossed your mind?
No, because, once boxing on British Boxing Board of Control, you realise the quality on them Malta shows isn't very good at all. I might as well stick in with where I can go in with some good names. Like just last year I was in with a load of good names, boxed on Sky a couple times. You're not going to get that on those Maltese shows.
Yeah, if you're a prospect, the level of opposition is just not there, is it?
No, not at all.
In 2014, you went in against Andy Townend. That was probably your sort of big moment for the Central Area Super Featherweight title. What went on there?
Yeah, I mean, that like you said earlier, at what point did I realise I was kind of a journeyman? I had my initial thing of not selling tickets, so taking away fights, but I still had a lot of ambition at that stage, and I was going in there to win. And you know, after that, it was kind of like, well, you know, I've lost my opportunity now. That was my opportunity to win the title. And Townend's an hard puncher. I struggled with the weight, and I just didn't have the experience at that stage.
Just to remind our listeners, we've got Derby boxer Lee Connolly on the call. Massive respect for guys like Lee who go about, you know, treading the boards, fighting against prospects, and you know, really giving his all. Is it Carl Greaves that trains or manages you or something, Lee?
He doesn't train me because he's out of my way, but he manages me. He has done from the start. So nearly 6 years that he's managed me through my career so far.
And he looks after you, Carl does, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, he knows I'm willing to get in with anyone, so he doesn't have to protect me from anything. You know, he stuck me in my first year against Luke Campbell, like you say, and so I think he realised what sort of fighter I am from the beginning. You know what I mean?
You've had wins, obviously. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. Garvey Kelly, you beat Ross Jameson, Ibra Riaz. What does it still feel like to have your hand raised, even after all those losses?
Yeah, it's still good, but I haven't got the same love for boxing I have now, because in the beginning, like I said, I had hopes and aspirations of winning all my fights. I'd never planned to lose, so you kind of become a bit numb to the losses, and then when a win comes along, it's nice, but I don't know, it just doesn't seem to have the same effect on me anymore.
Whenever fighters lose, a lot of the time there's always excuses, and they say, oh, you know, this happened, I got robbed, what have you. Are there any occasions where you genuinely thought you had done enough to win a fight? Plenty. And even I'm quite a negative, I look at myself quite critically and negatively, so I might think, oh, perhaps a draw in my corner, and everyone watching might say, you won that, you definitely won that. And, you know, you obviously don't get the decisions when you're boxing away. Who's the hardest puncher you fought, Lee?
That's hard to tell. Perhaps I boxed a kid called Joe Costello in Birmingham. He was a hot prospect coming through. He'd knocked that, you know, Alamedi out in first round, and he's had nearly 200 bouts. He knocked him out in first round, and I took him 4, but he did bust me up a bit. I
was at the Belfast show last night, and William Warburton was there. He's obviously had 150 odd fights, and Al Hamidi, like you say, has had a load. Peter Buckley had 300 fights. I mean, how long do you think you could go on for? Do you want to say, oh, I want to have 50? Do I want to have 100? I mean, how do you look at it?
Yeah, I mean, with the style I've got, I was going in taking 3 punches to land 1 when I first started. So only recently, only in this last year, I've kind of adopted my style to move around a bit more. So, you know, if I kept with that kind of style and I didn't get involved, I could probably get 100 if I wanted, but I don't know if I really want that. Then there's people like Christian Lake out there. He's at 300 and he's having another year at it. So, you know, it makes people like me look bad. Only I've been 46.
You got a draw in 2017 against Floyd Moore. You went the distance with Mitchell Smith. You went the distance with Scott Cardle. John Joe Nevin went the distance as well. I mean, do you go in and think to yourself, right, I'm in a defensive mindset. I just don't want to get stopped, and then I'll be able to fight again next week or the week after?
I mean, the only time I've really done that, probably my last fight that I had, because it was an 8-rounder, and I'd not trained for it. I just thought I'll do that. The other fights, I'm going there to win them, and I'm coming off worse for that, because I'm taking the punishment while I'm trying to move forward to land shots. I'm taking a lot of punishment, but generally, I still want to have a fight. That's the bit I enjoy most.
Is there any guys you've gone in with and you thought, wow, this kid's really special, he's going places?
Only the ones that people kind of know about. So, like last year, it was coming up to Christmas. I'd had 4 weeks, no training, drinking beers here and there, you know, just getting ready for Christmas. I didn't think I was going to box again. I boxed Joe Cordina. So I kind of knew before I went in that I was out of my depths. But as soon as that first round started, I just thought, yeah, this kid's the business. Just throwing combinations, and he never faded off. Hitting fast, hard punches, couldn't really touch him with anything. You get in with a kid like that, and it makes you just realise that there are big differences in levels in boxing.
Last couple of questions, and we do thank you for your time, Lee.
No problem.
When it comes to training and that, do you just tick yourself over? Obviously, you're not going to be going in and doing loads of sparring and stuff. I wouldn't have thought you're just ticking over. Is it type of thing?
Yeah, just ticking over. I guess like just train four times a week, just one session. That's all I'm kind of doing because I've got a job, and the more you box, you realise you've got to try and live a normal life as well, because it has its effect on your relationships with your family, with your partner and everything. Plus, I'm only getting a couple of days' notice for fights, so it's not like I can have camps. I've just got to kind of be in the gym whenever I can.
So you would tend to stick in and around the weight most of the year then?
Yeah, I have a vegan diet, and that has helped me with my weight. So I'm kind of just the same weight all the time. I'm just around 10 stone all the time, so I can take a fight any time then around that weight.
Couple of fights coming up. Bobby Woods in September in York Hall. Adam Ridge a week later in the Victoria Warehouse. Just keep plodding on, really, Lee, and see where it takes you.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me know about them. I didn't know I had them, but sometimes Carl doesn't always tell me because he knows that I'll just take it and turn up and do it, you know. So yeah, they'll be nice to get in, get a couple more in it, the 50, and then see how I feel from there. I think, and probably have another year at it.
Yeah, according to BoxRec, you've got Bobby on the 8th of September in York Hall, and
Right.
you've got Adam Ridge, who's 4-0 on the 15th of September up in Manchester. So best of luck.
Oh, great! Yeah, thank you, mate. Thanks.
We appreciate you joining us. Are you on social media or anything like that, Twitter or?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, but I don't really use that much. But Facebook and Instagram, I'm on there all the time. So
Everyone will hopefully look for you and add you on. Lee, really appreciate you coming on. It's been a fascinating discussion. Thanks for joining us.
yeah, thanks a lot for having me on.
All the best. Cheers, Lee.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Brilliant stuff. We have all sorts on here, trainers, prospects, what have you, Andy. But Lee Connolly, journeyman, had nearly 40 losses. But I thought that was a really interesting discussion and insight.
It was, mate. It was really good listening to him. Actually, I've just been sat here, kind of like flipping through some, old articles and stuff like that, just kind of like reading up, and I just actually had to stop what I was reading and just kind of listen to what he was saying. It was really good.
Good stuff from Lee. Right, tell us the other end of the scale, Andy. Carl Frampton, Luke Jackson. We touched upon it with Joe O'Neill, obviously, before we got Lee on there. Frampton did what he had to do. At one point, I was actually thinking, you know what? Andy said that Jackson was going to last the distance, and we sort of talked him round last week. And I thought at one point that you might actually be on the money because Jackson was tough as old boots.
I think I actually picked the right round. Assuming you actually kind of like made me change my pick. I think I'm in for the 9th round. I think so. I'll take that. I thought Carol came out quite spiteful. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm watching for a distance. You've got a closer up view of it for what I have, but I thought he was trying to really dig those body shots, really trying to do damage on Jackson. And in the end, I just thought it was just his class. He's just a different class above Luke Jackson. Who isn't really world level. So we need Frampton now in a big fight. Obviously, the Warrington one's been discussed for December, probably Manchester, as Joe mentioned as well. I would look forward to that one. But again, as I say, I wouldn't say Warrington's actually world class in that. So, has Frampton maybe still is he slipped a step? I really don't know. Against like the kind of top guys, I like to see him back in with Santa Cruz. We get that third fight, get the rubber match over and done with. But as I said, he did what he had to do. You could look at it for this way. You could look at that card from the house last night and say that was shit, or you could have went in person and just had a good time and just kind of listen to your mates chatting away and stuff like that, and have a few beers and watch your fights and stuff like that, and just kind of enjoy it as best as possible. But all round actually, the main event, it was a good atmosphere. Carl did what he had to do, as I says. Thanks for kind of making me talk my way around about it though, mate, and picking the knockout in the end. Or I should say, there's the corner retirement. Yep,
you got it, Andy. Spot on. Shout out to MB in the chat. He said mad times where Steve is informing fighters of their next upcoming fights. that was quite a good moment on the Nuthouse there. Lee Connolly being informed that he has a couple of fights coming up. Rob, glad to have you on. First of all, before we jump in on Tyson Fury, shout out to Chop Chop Corley. He's 44 years of age. He had his 5th fight of the year yesterday. Team Chop Chop. He nearly has as many wins as he has losses. Let's go on to Tyson, though, shall we, Rob? As much as I'm sure you want to talk about Chop Chop. Greg Cross, Chop Chop, by the way. Good man, Chop Chop. He has about 15 kids.
Got Paul McCluskey out of there because I had high hopes for Paul McCluskey. I thought genuinely he was going to go a little bit further. Like, Chop Chop proved me wrong. So shout out to Chop Chop still doing it. And he gave Floyd a bit of trouble too. So
He did indeed. I think where McCluskey everything had been droned out the tank whenever he fought against Prescott, he just couldn't go to the well. One more time about Corley. Will Tyson Fury be able to go to the well, Rob, against Deontay Wilder? That's the question. Frank Warren said, according to Greg Cross, whenever Fury came back, give him time. He needs 3 to 4 fights. That's the plan. It seems like a cash grab to me, says Greg, because he went the distance with Pianetta, and now they're throwing him in against Wilder, and he's not ready, says Greg Cross. He's not ready, Rob.
well, that may be. Right, and I suppose we're all kind of taking the cynical view that this is a cash grab because that's what it looks like, isn't it? But this is a game of opportunism as well as hard work and dedication, as Big Bro says. You have to take your opportunities sometimes when you can't come. And if you look at the heavyweight landscape as it stands at the moment, it's all based on opportunism. Because when Tyson, and we'll get to this in a second, like the polarizing character is, he beats the man, and then his career just disintegrates in front of all of our eyes. Like, and he's been witch hunted by the media, but then he hasn't helped himself either with some of the stuff he's said and done. So he's out of the picture. Eddie Hearn, the biggest opportunist in the game, changes the landscape, rewrites history. All of a sudden, AJ is the man, and he beats an older version of Vladimir. So it's all kind of smoke and mirrors. So if Fury doesn't take this fight, where does he go? Like, he gets another 2 fights, and what happens? One of them, there's a lot of money to be left on the table somewhere along the line. Do you know what I mean? Does he take the risk that either AJ or Wilder doesn't get beat for the next 2 fights? That's a big enough risk too, and that money could just drain away. I mean, his career, he hasn't received the big pay that AJ has received this far, even though he's been a better fighter in his head and beating Vladimir, more comprehensively. He hasn't been rewarded financially, and those 2 fights could go away. Who's to say AJ won't get starched or Wilder won't get starched? They're both vulnerable, and it is heavyweight boxing. So there's money to be left on the table somewhere, and I guess they're just going for it. Whether he can beat him or not, I don't know. You made a good point there just before I came on. I was going to say, I thought in the 6th round, he looked like he was trying to stop him. And then I thought he didn't really know if he could stop him. So it's interesting that Ben Davison's obviously told him, take your foot off the gas here, don't stop him, do the rounds, which is a good advice, I guess, if they're, the Wilder's fight, the backdrop to this had already been set. The Wilder fight is signed, sealed, delivered. All you have to do is come through.
They were boxing in the knowledge of that, weren't they?
Yeah, of course. So maybe, I don't want to sound like I'm on, because everyone knows I love Fury, but I don't want to sound like I'm biased. I wasn't that impressed. I didn't think he looked like he thought he could go the rounds. That's the way it looked like in the corner. So it's interesting to say that Davison maybe told him to take his foot off the gas, but to me, he looked like he was getting a little bit tired. And he did look a little bit vulnerable. And to me, I believe his mindset is positive. He's lost the weight, 2 years out of the ring, new trainer, 10 stone in weight loss. That can't be underestimated either. There's not a lot of people talking about that. That taking 10 stone off and trying to be the same fighter, I don't know. I would have said I think it's the same narrative. I think everybody's of the same opinion. The Fury of old probably would have toyed with Wilder. But this Wilder's a different proposition. He's got better. He's 40-0 with 39 knockouts, and he knocked out the guy that took him the distance. So he's legit power. Whether he's good or not, technically, that's another question. Is Fury going to have enough to keep him off him for 12 rounds? And if he fights like that in the US, are they going to give him the decision? Because they don't like that style over there. You know what I mean? He got the decision in Germany. A lot of people were surprised, even though I thought he was a comprehensive winner. I thought he might get hosed on the cards. If he fights like that in the US, he'd be putting him to sleep.
Rob, you make an excellent point. Nobody's picked up on that, and myself included, because a good case in point was last night, actually. See, if you watch the Bryant Jennings against Alexander Dimitrenko fight, I'm not trying to compare
Which I won't.
and Fury. It wasn't as bad as you think, Rob, but don't watch it. It wasn't great. But Dimitrenko, Eastern European style, jab, jab, jab. He was holding. Obviously, I'm not equating Fury's ability to Dimitrenko's, but the commentary weren't happy about it. The referee wasn't happy about it. If Fury wants to do the jab and grab at times, which he will have to do, you make an excellent point about them not enjoying that type of style.
Absolutely, and I think that's the only way that he beats Wilder. I don't think he's imitating Muhammad Ali in the corner with Deontay Wilder. He has to get inside on him. Wilder's not good on the inside. Fury's big. Fury can lie on him. Fury showed last night in bits and pieces that he can work on the inside. I don't know if that's Ricky Hatton's influence. That's a really weird comparison to make. But he looked like he could fight on the inside, but he's going to have to take risks to get in there. and I don't know if Fury could take Deontay Wilder's power. I don't think any of the heavyweights could take Deontay Wilder's power and come through it. Like, so he's going to have to box the perfect fight. And is he capable of that? I don't know. With all the taking all factors into consideration, I just don't know.
No, I agree, Rob.
But I will say this. As much as we can shit on the fight and say he's taking it too early and he needs warm-up fights and doesn't look the same, this fight right now that's signed and sealed and delivered is the most intriguing boxing match we're going to get. Because we don't know. It's a mystery. What's going to happen? We don't know. Is Fury going to go out and shock the world and box the perfect 12 rounds, or is Wilder going to knock him out within 2 and that's the last time we see a Tyson Fury? You know what I mean? It's absolutely unreal, and it is overshadowing everything Arn is trying to do with Joshua, which is even better. So, yeah, whatever we think about it as a contest, it's definitely going to create a lot of hype and a lot of interest in boxing. So,
off the cuff question to you, Rob, before I hit you on Paddy Barnes and Carl Frampton. If someone had said to you, you can have Wilder against Fury or you can have Spence against Crawford, what would you have taken?
As a purist, Spence against Crawford, I think. But for the sport, Fury versus Wilder. I think Spence versus Crawford could be like a chess match at times where they're both feeling each other out for a couple of rounds.
Chess on steroids.
Yes, yeah, a chest match if Errol Spence is anything to look at. Like
maybe literally. I didn't mean that literally, but you never know.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I thought you did mean literally.
I didn't, but yeah.
But anyway, no, yeah. As a purist, of course, I want to see Spence versus Crawford. That's the fight to make now, along with Lomachenko and Mikey Garcia. Dream matchups, like, you know what I mean. Creme de la creme fights, like they're the ones we want to see. But for the sport, Jesus Christ, man, Tyson Fury in America up against Wilder, the press conferences, all that's going to be great. I don't care about all that necessarily, but for the sport, it's going to be huge.
Frampton, don't want to relegate him really to second fiddle, but obviously with Fury Wilder, his win over Luke Jackson was good. Good performance by Frampton. Also, Paddy Barnes getting iced in 4 rounds. Unfortunately, it was just too much against Rosales.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Frampton fight kind of went with the way we thought, didn't it? Like, he's just too experienced, too good. Lovely little fighter, like brilliant on the jab, brilliant at hooking around the guard, hooking to the body. He just broke him up, like, didn't he? He kind of did what he wanted with him. Like, although he was game Jackson, like Action Jackson, he was game, like. But he kind of had a look about him as like Al Stewart's son. Remember Al Stewart had a little son years ago in Home and Away. He looked like him growing up. Frampton put the beating on him anyway and got him out. I
preferred Heartbreak High, Rob.
Did you? Yeah, that was a good one too. That was before Sky Digital, man. What were we going to do? No, so like Frampton did what he wanted, but Paddy Barnes stepped too far for him. Like I said last week, I think he should have, if he was going to go pro, he should have gone after the first Olympic bid. I think he's left it too late, and Rosales just too big for him. But a perfect shot, man. Absolutely perfect peach rifle of a shot to the solar plexus that Paddy Barnes wasn't getting up. He could count it to 50. He wasn't getting up. Like,
did you get the feeling it was coming, Rob? Because even though I thought Paddy was doing quite well, it was almost as if he was fighting really hard to stay in the fight as early as like the second round.
And it's funny, I was talking to my dad about it yesterday, like, and he keeps up to date with bits and pieces. Obviously, he's an old school boxing fan, but he keep up to date with the Irish lads. And he said yesterday, Barnes getting stopped. Like, he's like, he's definitely getting stopped. It's overdue. Him coming getting stopped. So I was like, all right, we'll see. So yeah, so and behold, he proved wrong again, me, and he got stopped. Like, so. But
we need to get you old man on the pod instead of you.
Stop, man. Technology. You better use a mobile phone. You joking me? Google Hangouts. Forget about it. He thinks the internet are spying on you anyway. He could be onto something.
He's right.
But no. So I think that might be the last of Barnes. Actually, I don't know if he'll come again for a world title. Like, where does he go? Pity for him. I think if he had a turn pro at that time after the first Zhiming Zhu lost, rather than try to avenge it, he might have had a better pro career and he might have picked up a strap along the way, because he was very good, like very, very good fighter. He still is a very good fighter, but it was just a step too far from him. The guy was too big. He was going to get him eventually, I think. But he gave a great retort to a woman last week, so he's a champion in my eyes, because some female boxer. Now, you know, I'm not the biggest female boxer in the world, apart from the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world, Obanov. So I don't normally keep up to date. So I don't know. Some female boxers said to Paddy Barnes, well, he chimed in. Someone was sticking up for Galah, or someone was bashing Canelo, and she was like, "Oh, come off with everybody in boxing is on steroids, whatever."
Mia St. John, yeah.
Mia St. John, yeah. So Paddy Barnes said something to her, and she said, "Oh, you got a small penis," and he goes, "Yeah, but I don't care about that because I have an arse like a sewing machine." So he's forever a world champ in my eyes after that one. But yeah, so unfortunate for him, but it would have been nice for the triple header to come through. But so I only have to jump on. Was everybody else thinking about the Fury fight? Pretty much the same thing, I guess. Andy, what do you?
Go ahead, Andy.
Sorry, what was that? Sorry.
No, I was just wanting to see because I haven't heard it. I only just jumped on, but I wanted to see what everybody else thinks about Fury and Wilder.
The fight, mate. As I says, I'm happy it's been made. 10th of November is what I heard kicking around anyway. It's Showtime pay-per-view, BT pay-per-view as well. So I actually looked at some of the pay. We're going to have to pay for something like 4, 5, 6, about 8 pay-per-views between now and the end of Christmas. That's
do you know what? Do you know what? Two of them I paid for. I paid for Wilder Fury and I paid for Golovkin Canelo. Definitely, I paid for them. Like, but
Rob, breaking news. Editing King is in the chat and he says that he thinks it's going to be on November the 17th in the T-Mobile Arena.
I'll go for that. That'll be a beauty, like. But how bad is it making Hearn look now? What's he going to do now? Like, nobody's going to care about Joshua.
He's been owned over the last couple of weeks, Eddie Hearn, hasn't he?
It's brilliant, like how Frank and Shelley Finkel got together to stick him in the end, isn't it? Like, it's like when Benny Blanco turned up at the end of Carlito's Way with your man.
As I say, I don't know if you heard me, but I think one of the main reasons why he's wanting the Wilder fight right now, one, probably I think he needs to be up for the opponent. If he knows he's in my danger man, something that can dig, I think when we see maybe something close to his best. The other thing is, as well as if he picks up the WBC title, he's really got the negotiating, ploy right there to basically go to Joshua and says, "I want 50-50. If you want to be the undisputed champ, the lineal champ, you come through me 50-50. Fuck out, sign the deal."
Well, plus Eddie has all that DAZN money, doesn't he? So if he does come through, he does beat Wilder. That's a mega fight, like absolute mega fight.
If he's got all this money, mate, how's he then failing on purse bids?
Yeah, I was going to say that Hooker saw Sader, yeah.
Maurice Hooker, my main man.
Remember, hey, listen, Hearn actually did a Frank Warren, didn't he? He actually had Maurice Hooker on the poster. He had actually advertised him for his upcoming fight and stuff like that on the DAZN network. And what happens? He didn't even have the fucking fight signed.
Yeah, I wonder did Maurice Hooker's team request proof of funds, and that's where it fell down.
See.
No proof of funds here. Fat Apples in the chat isn't happy about all the anti-matchroom thing, but you know what? They have to start bringing some W's to the table, Fat Apples. I mean, I'm not particularly Team Box Nation or Frank or anything more than anything else. I said earlier I'd rather watch Joshua than Fury. I mean, at the end of the day, they should have made the Joshua Wilder fight. They made the Fury Wilder fight, so that's the only one we can talk about, isn't it? Anyway, we'll be coming back to you soon again. Thanks, Rob Kelly, for all that insight. Rapping Rob Kelly there, rapper extraordinaire. Find all his music in the usual places, everybody. Napster, LimeWire. Where else are you, Rob? WinMX? Bearshare?
Oh, it's funny because I once met a fella in the pub and he said to me, I think I told a story actually before. So he told me he was burning my CDs for all his friends. He looked like he was supposed to be all happy. I was like, give me 50 quid, you burn your car. I already don't know about burn my CDs for your friends. Thanks very much, asshole. But,
you're going to go after Napster, are you, like Metallica?
I don't think I'm worth it, man. I don't think they're looking for. They're going for me. They're trying to get like Ariana Grande and all them ones, aren't they? I don't know. Move on there, Steve.
Move on. Right, hey to Dave Loback. Let's move on to you. Just before we do so, Brian G was asking for my thoughts on the fights, actually. Future predictions. Wilder KOs Fury, says Brian. Yes, I would agree with that. Frampton beats Warrington. I would also agree with that. Valdez then beats Frampton, says Brian. No, I wouldn't agree with that. I think Frampton beats Valdez. Will the rubber match with Santa Cruz ever happen? Probably not. I think Santa Cruz is going to fight Gary Russell Jr., hopefully, at the end of the year. I actually think Santa Cruz will beat Russell. Then, hopefully, he will fight Frampton, but I don't think that Frampton-Santa Cruz 3 will ever happen. That's my thoughts on things, Dave. What do you think about Frampton going forward, his performance against Luke Jackson, future fights with Warrington? Also, give us a word on Paddy Barnes if you did indeed see that fight.
I just saw the finish. Sympathy for Paddy. He was on our pod before, right? Or was he on NBP?
He was on NBP, I think.
Well then, fuck him.
I think he's been on here as well, I think.
No, yeah, I thought he has. I don't know. I don't remember. Yeah, I just saw the finish. Yeah, I thought he landed a decent couple shots right before he got stopped. So yeah, whatever. Frampton looked good. He looked physically, I think, as good as he's ever looked. Now that he doesn't have to cut the weight, I think he's a machine. He's a supreme athlete, really tremendous. The boxing skill, though, I don't think he boxed as well last night as he did against Donaire. He was really on top form there with the jab. Really, almost the whole fight. He got hurt maybe once or twice against Donaire, but he kept that chin safe. Last night he was kind of wide open for counters, and he did get tagged several times. It's just the problem is poor Luke Jackson, Action Jackson. I mean, the guy apparently can't punch. I mean, last night was really a perfect example of tangibles and the difference they have on a fight, because let's say the two guys are about equal in terms of skill. They were both able to set up shots on each other and land them. The problem is Frampton's had a massive impact. He had a power edge. He had the speed edge. He had the stamina edge. Jackson had nothing in terms of athleticism over Frampton, I don't think. Showed a decent jaw, I guess, but he couldn't hurt him. He couldn't get him with combinations. He could hit him with a single shot, but he wasn't fast enough to get off the combinations would just like swing wide as Frampton moved out of the way. Frampton's legs are still there, so that's a good thing for his fans. Yeah, he's definitely. I would be comfortable as a Frampton fan if I was a Frampton fan right now, because physically he looks as good as he's ever looked. Just needs to make sure he keeps those skills sharp, because last night I don't think he cared. Last night it was all about getting that stoppage and taking some punches to the body and head. Did not seem to bother him along the way. As far as what happens next, I would love to see that Santa Cruz third fight, because I'd like to see how Frampton deals with Santa Cruz adjustments that he made in the second fight, which were very effective. I'd like to see how he deals with that with a new trainer. He's not with Sean McGuigan anymore, is he?
No, he's with former European champion Jamie Moore now.
Okay, yeah, because I thought Shane gave him some bad. Shane McGuigan, right? Shane gave him some bad advice in the later rounds of that fight. So
I actually think on the whole Shane's a good trainer, but in that case I agree.
And Santa Cruz, I think maybe has regressed. I don't necessarily see the same craft I used to see in him. I didn't see all of the Marais rematch, but it was close from what I heard. And he was definitely getting hit plenty. And one of the things that he managed to avoid doing in that Frampton rematch was get hit a lot. He used his jab and maintained range, which is basically a great method to beat Frampton. That's why I thought that as badly as Selby lost to Warrington, I think Selby's style is definitely more of a threat to Frampton than Warrington's is. I think Warrington might just kind of walk into the spinning blades and get chopped up. Selby is a stylistic trouble for Frampton. I don't know about like if he's got the athleticism or heart or whatever it is to actually win that, but we'll see. We probably won't see, actually. I don't know. Selby seemed like he might be done.
Yeah.
Garrett Russell Jr. and Santa Cruz, who the winner of that should fight Frampton. I would love to see that. I can't pick a winner, honestly, in that one, because Santa Cruz, I would normally say, like a few years ago, I would say, yeah, he's probably the best guy in the division, but he really doesn't seem to have built on his talent in the past couple of years, and of course he's been pretty inactive.
Do you know why I'd pick him for? I like the way Russell is so fast, but he only has one speed, and that's mega fast. And after a while, good fighters can time him, and I think Santa Cruz will be able to time him.
Yeah, it's true. And even Jojo Diaz was able to win maybe a round or two against Russell by just being active and kind of walking him down. Russell's a tiny guy, and yeah, he's very fast, but he is kind of predictable. So yeah, a lot of punches are going to be thrown in that fight, so it's a good matchup.
Just before we move on to Gabe, I know that a lot of the chat are going on about the sort of Frank and Eddie thing. My view would be, if you're going to attack Frank, and he has many faults, many problems, I agree with all of that, at least attack him on relevant problems. This is coming from someone who's been blasted by Frank in the past. someone who's received the solicitor's
Soon-
email.
soon
Andy
as-
knows all about that. You know, the old forum members will know all about the solicitor's email. So no love lost between me. But the thing I would say is, I don't understand that about the anti-Frank and the anti-BT brigade. It's the vehemence that they deliver these criticisms with. I see it on Twitter. I see it on YouTube. People blasting Frank's product as being so inferior to Eddie's. The fights are so shit. The fighters are so substandard. The production values are so inferior to Sky's. And I'm thinking to myself, that's simply not true. This is BT Sports you're talking about, not Spike TV, not Free Sports. The broadcasting quality is absolutely fine in my view. So people who attack the BT Sports production values, I mean, I'm no production artist. I don't know anything about that, but it looks absolutely fine to me. Is Warren's stable of fighters as strong as Eddie's? No. Is it vastly, vastly inferior? Is it laughably weak in comparison? No, not at all. I don't think so. So I don't know why they're making comments in that regard. If you're going to blast them, at least blast them on something relevant. Yeah, so fuck you, lot. I'm only joking. Give us a thumbs up in the chat. Right, that's my piece, said Gabe. Tell me about Carl Frampton against, who did he fight again? Luke Jackson, wasn't it? Or the fights moving forward in particular. How do you think Frampton would fare, Gabe, against Oscar Valdez? I fancy Frampton. Who do you fancy?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you guys. There's been several mentions of Valdez over Frampton. I just don't see it. Valdez is a kind of, to me, unique proposition for a fight because I think a lot of times he looks kind of one dimensional, but I really don't think he's as one dimensional as he's seemed to be because of the way he fights. He's typical of a lot of Mexican fighters in the way that he fights. I mean, he fights offensively, defensively, you know, in the quick fight, especially. And there's been a couple of others. He fought a young man from the Philippines, maybe. I thought that those fights were partially of a result of his offensive output and his attempt to move forward. But I favor Valdez over Frampton. I don't fancy Carl too much for anything. I mean, he's had some good fights and he fights well. He's not a bad fighter, so I don't want to go on the record of people thinking that I say he's a bad fighter. But I just don't see anything spectacular enough to make me think he could get past Valdez. I think Valdez has a lot more wrinkles in his game than he's shown. It would be hard for me to put a finger on him, but there's just some traits that he has that fundamentally and boxing skills that he has that seem to kind of sneak out at times. They're not real prominent, and they're not really at high level displays. So whenever you watch him fight, it's more about subtleties, I think. People look at him as an offensive minded fighter, and I think he's a good boxer, a genuinely good boxer who's offensively minded, not just a fighter. So I'll pick Valdez every day of the week. When it happens, maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. But as far as Frampton, I don't really care to see a third fight with Leo Santa Cruz, but that may be more because I hate Leo Santa Cruz. He's a bum. He's garbage. And he's so inactive. And when he does fight, it's against nobody that really makes a difference or a hill of beans. So to me, I just don't care about that fight. So I wouldn't mind seeing Carl Frampton with Valdez. Really, I wouldn't mind watching Carl fight just about anybody. I'd like to see him with high quality opponents. But as far as a Leo Santa Cruz third fight, I mean, I've seen it twice. I didn't particularly care for it either time. They were bad fights, but again, that's probably my Santa Cruz hate overriding anything else there. I just can't stand that guy. He's a chump, and he has no power. And he's won a lot at his earlier stages of his career because he was a bigger guy. Now
You've become a real hater lately. You've become a real hater.
No, just with Leo Santa Cruz. Just with Santa Cruz. This is not about Frampton. So
I'm only messing with you.
I think I wouldn't mind watching Frampton with just about anybody else. But I would really like the Valdez fight. I want to see Valdez get some big fights in. his career is not destined to be a real long one, I don't think. But hopefully that quick fight didn't take too much out of him, because I think that's a great matchup waiting to happen with Valdez and Frampton. So that would be top of my list for Frampton. I don't know that they'll go for it right away. If they do, fair play to both of them. I know that Valdez, I think I read he was supposed to be back later this year. So if that does happen, that'll probably be a tune-up, and then we could look for that fight maybe mid to late next year before it really materializes. So I think Carl gets a few lighter touches in the meantime before we see him in the mix. I don't think he's going to go with Santa Cruz 3.
Gabe, while you're all pumped up, anything positive to say about the Bryant Jennings-Alexander Dimitrenko fight? It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'm not saying it was an exciting matchup, but there were knockdowns to be had. Also, Jesse Hart got a win against household name Mike Gavronsky. Anything on that New Jersey bill, Gabe?
I thought it was a fairly decent fight, to be honest with you. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible either. I don't know. Maybe it was more of a we didn't think it was so bad because we thought it was going to be terrible, type of things, because it wasn't as bad as our expectations. So it maybe looks a little better than it was. No, I didn't dislike it at all. I thought it was decent. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on stateside. So, I mean, we either watched the Fury stuff and the Frampton stuff and so on, or we got that to watch. So, yeah, I didn't think it was bad at all. I mean, it wasn't a super great fight, but it wasn't, complete garbage either. I actually thought it was maybe a little bit more exciting than the Fury fight.
Andy's starting to flag a bit, so we're going to wrap up as close to 10 as we can, Andy. Anything from last night that you want to add? I know you didn't see Jennings Dimitrenko. Any funny stories, any bits and pieces? Tom Senior yarns?
Oh, mate, fucking I could write a book about what's going down. I got jobbed. Okay, some of these people are going to be listening to this, actually. They'll be laughing their pants off when they fucking tell the story. But I ordered a half of Oban whiskey, 14-year-old, in the Europa. Fucking bitch came out with a fucking glass, put it down. That's £14, please. I mean, fucking £14. £14 for a half of whiskey. Fucking felt violated. What else? Tommy pissed the bed, apparently. I can't remember that. Aye, true. What else?
He's known for that. He did it.
Aye.
On Matty before.
He did it at Matty in Vegas. That was fucking funny. Can I give a shout out to Mick McElwee's wife as well? Actually, she's a personal trainer. So.
Evelyn, yeah, nice.
Aye. Yeah. Aye, so I'd say I'd give her a wee shout out, and there was something else I had to give a shout out to, and it's been right out of my head. Fuck, it's been right out of my head at the minute. But aye, I mean, think about it, man. I had to walk from Windsor all the way back to Europa Hotel in that fucking rain. It's a third stadium fight in my puff I've been to, by the way, and each time it's been raining, each time I've been soaking, and each time I've been fucking frozen by the end of the night.
Everywhere you go, you always take the Scottish weather with you.
Oh man, listen, I'm never doing a stadium fight again. Never ever again. I did Kawasaki Kessler, but that was inside. The roof was shut for that fight, so that doesn't count. But other than that, man, oh fuck, no way. I can't be damned with fucking having to fucking walk about in the rain like.
I remember a friend of mine telling me a yarn years ago. Can't remember who it was, but I wouldn't name them anyway. But he pulled a bird and done the business, and then the next morning he woke up and she'd pissed the bed.
It was just wasn't coming too much and a wee bit of stuff like that.
No, I don't know. I didn't get into the finer details. Anyway, right, let's move on, shall we? Shout out to some of the niche type of stuff. One of these Russians, Beta Akhmedov, he's only 4-0, knocked out Ismail Barroso, so that's a pretty decent win. It was in the 9th round over in California. Loads of these Russians and Ukrainians and stuff are going over to the west coast of America, making names for themselves and fighting in decent fights from a pretty early stage of their careers. Carlos Cuadras won the vacant WBC Latino bantamweight title. That's a great title, against Ricardo Nunez over in Sinaloa in Mexico. Hope everybody got out okay on that one. Also, a fight from this afternoon. I completely forgot about it. It was on Box Nation, which is still going. Shavkadzon Rakimov, 12-0, knocked out Robinson Castellanos in the second round to defend the auspicious IBO super featherweight title. I'm sure Dave Lee would have been watching that one with interest. Anything to add from you, Hater Dave Lobach, before we move on to the final bits and pieces? Did you watch Bryant Jennings at all? Actually, let me tell you something, Dave. Value of the Week nomination for Joe Tessitore, who spent the whole fight calling Dimitrenko a Russian, framing it as an American fight for supremacy against the invader,
Yeah.
and he even referenced Ivan Drago as well, when in fact Dimitrenko is a Ukrainian based in Germany.
Yeah, the German flag was on the screen the entire time. I guess Joe didn't have the graphics in front of him or something. Maybe he just felt he was wearing the same colors that Drago wore, therefore he must be a Soviet. I don't know. I did see that fight, and I like Tim Bradley on the commentary. I think he's really becoming quite a good pundit there. He used to be like back in the day when he started. He was a bit shy, like uncertain about what to say, when to say it. Mark Kriegel, on the other hand, needs to shut the fuck up. Can't stand that guy. His voice sucks too. So the sooner ESPN get rid of him, the better. I prefer Teddy.
Hey, I'm right there with you. I was going to mention that too. That guy drives me batshit. His writing, I mean, whenever he writes pieces, I think they're good. I definitely enjoy his writing, but the fucking guy.
I'll back that up as well. Because he's a guy who doesn't actually kind of report on the fights. He's always setting a narrative. That guy. He's obviously okay, interviews the guys and stuff like that, but he's always then giving this fucking opinion. It does nothing to do with the fight. Just discuss the fight. You're no fucking there to set a narrative. Just tell us what's happening in the ring.
Well, maybe he is, though.
That's kind of become
Maybe
a
he's told
staple
to do that,
of
though.
American TV and sports, though. I mean, if you I know you guys don't watch baseball, and I'm not going to harp on it too much more, but I mean, any sport that you watch in America anymore, it's always got some fucking narrative, or they go on about 30 times about how some new goddamn record's been sent. Like, I was watching a game the other day, and the new record that we got to see made was something like most strikeouts with 2 runners on base in a 8th inning of a ball game. Like, who gives a rat's flying fucking ass? Just
Yeah,
the game.
all the statistics are just kind of pointless. Some of them are meaningful. Most of them aren't. Also, I mean, there was a point in the fight where Tim Bradley was criticizing Dimitrenko's footwork, and Kriegel says, "Oh, it's not so much footwork as much as that shuffle he does with his feet." Well, that's footwork. You mean, like, I don't. It was just like he disagreed with Tim Bradley to it's like he's lobbying for the job that he already has. And
He always does that, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's an asshole. He was doing it again in Linares Lomachenko as well. He's a habitual line stepper, this guy.
What a cunt. Okay. Anyway, the fight itself, it was good. It was fun. Dimitrenko clearly, I mean, he's lacking something upstairs or in his chest, or like the heart level is not necessarily all the way where it needs to be. Pluses and minuses for both guys. Both were in shape. Dimitrenko is a huge guy, seems to have some power, lacks confidence and lacks heart. Bryant Jennings, he's a guy I've always respected. Never been a huge fan because I've never had a lot of hopes for him. He's not had that amateur. He didn't have a long amateur career, if he even had one at all. He's a part-time fighter. I don't know if he still is, but for a while there he was a part-time fighter, and that's never gonna give him the experience he needs or put him to the level he needs to be at. But I've always respected him. He always shows up in shape. He's a competent fighter. He's got some good basics, and I thought he put a good fight up against Vlad. Had that fairly close fight, actually, surprisingly close. Thought he even showed a decent performance against Ortiz when he got stopped. The guy, to me, he always seemed like a sort of journeyman attitude fighter. He would just try to do what he needed to do without doing too much. Last night, he really did seem mean, and it was the first time I've seen him looking mean. He went after that stoppage, and he went after him, hitting him hard. That was the first time I've seen John David Jackson in his corner. I don't know if that's a trainer switch. Maybe someone can tell me if he's been with him for a long time. I don't know. But maybe that's changed things up, because he did seem he wasn't. Tim Bradley had this right. He wasn't being consistent enough with his offense, but what he was doing is consistently walking the Ukrainian German down constantly, which is which was a good thing to see. It meant that he had the confidence, he had the drive, he was looking for that stoppage, and of course he knew that he had that guy's soul in his pocket, because that guy, like, I guess Dimitrenko is just known for not exactly having fire in his belly. But yeah, it was a decent stoppage. The ref didn't necessarily need to wave it off when he did, but it would. I mean, I assume he probably would have continued beating his ass.
Yeah, Max Stoke wasn't too enamoured by this spectacle. Jennings and Dimitrenko are both poor, both irrelevant. Feed them to Joyce, Dubois, or Gorman now, says Max Stoke. Can't disagree with too much of that. McKetch, our friend, was in touch over on Twitter. He says Oscar Valdez has left Manny Robles now, one of many to do so. In fact, I think Valdez is training with the Reynosos, so expect him to meet expectations soon, maybe. I think he'll be better with a trainer who doesn't turn everyone into a seek and destroy merchant, says McKetch. Of course, Michael Conlon has also left, and nobody's on the Robles train at the moment, unfortunately. Just a final point on Jennings. I was wondering why the hell a drunken Lennox Lewis was on the Jennings hype train, shouting from ringside. That's a train he needs to get off. I was informed earlier by the Lennox Lewis Foundation on Twitter. Apparently, Jennings does a lot of volunteer work for Lennox's charitable foundation. So that's me told. Fights for next week.
He's a top bloke, and come on, he's had he's overachieved as far as I'm concerned. The guy's in good shape. He always shows up to win. He only has the 2 losses against one, the heavyweight champion of the world, which was not by any means one-sided.
Did okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was the one against Ortiz, which was one-sided, but he fought hard. The guy's a good, honest pro, and he's a volunteer. Like, give him some credit. I think I think he has a shot against Joe Joyce. Yeah, sure.
I'd back that up as well. Actually, I agree with what Dave just said there.
Endorsement for you, thumbs up, Dave.
What I was going to say is, was Brian Jennings a part-time fighter just before he fought? Was he not a bank worker or something like that?
He's a fireman, isn't he? I think.
I think he was a bank worker for some reason. I don't know. Oh, that was Denton Vassell. I think I'm thinking about. Sorry.
Denton Vassell's a bank worker, yeah. Right, talking of bankers, we've got plenty of Bellew of the Weeks coming up later on. Also, action for next week. I'm not going to hit you, Andy, with this Chris Van Heerden Frederick Lawson fight in Canada, but I think that could actually be a pretty decent affair. Brad Solomon's on it as well against Francisco Santana. Is this the latest instalment of Evander Holyfield's tournament? I seem to recognise these names. Maybe it is, actually. Alex Dilmajani as well. He's on that card against Tyson Cave. You might remember he was on with us a few months ago. Is that the Holyfield card, is it, Andy?
Tyson Cave, that was it. Who was he fighting in the UK again?
Tyson Cave's fighting Dilmajani, who was on with us, right? Cave has previously lost to Willie Casey, but the point I'm making is Van Heerden Lawson, Solomon Santana. I think that is the semi-finals of Evander Holyfield's tournament. Do you remember Paddy Gallagher was in it?
That is. I just found it, mate. Real Deal Sports Entertainment. Evander Holyfield, Lee Baxter Promotions. Aye, so it definitely is. I remember reading something about that Frederick Lawson. He was supposed to be, no big things expected, but he was a decent fight. I mean, and then I don't know what happened to the Kevin Bizier fight. I need to go back. I need to go and watch it. But I read somewhere that he'd maybe had a broken jaw in that fight or something. So, it's and I noticed Tyson Cave's name has been changed? Because I noticed.
Yeah, it used to be TYSON. Now he's TISON. Do you think he could become better now he's changed the Y for an I?
Oh, who knows, mate? Who knows? To be honest, I really didn't know nothing else about any of these other fighters on that card. I'm more interested, obviously. I think my guy's back next week is Isaac Dogbo. He's fighting. Who's it? He's fighting again.
Oh, is that next week? I haven't actually got that on the list here.
Beltran's fighting Pedraza on the undercard. It's on ESPN next week.
Oh, is that on the Beltran card? Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes, he's fighting Hidenori Atake.
That's the guy who fought Scott Quigg, and that was an awful fight. He's doing any power, that guy, and he's like well up in age now. So you expect Dogbo, obviously it's his first defence. You're always going to expect to get a kind of gimme fight unless you're wanting that unification pretty quick. But again, Pedraza as well. I know he's only got the one defeat and stuff like that, but I would think Beltran, obviously being the more natural lightweight. Pedraza's obviously spent part of his career at 130, and he gets told off Gervonta Davis as well. So you think Beltran, even though at this advanced stage of his career, is going to have enough about him to basically kind of wear him down. Maybe you stop him late in that fight.
Good analysis. Economics was on with us last week asking about possibly getting Tony Jeffries on the show. I've reached out to Tony. We have emailed back and forward, and he does seem keen, so hopefully we'll get him on at some point. Also, the Nigerian fight doctor, Dr. Joseph K.O. Ajayo, is coming on next week to talk about Femi, he-goats, big cats, whatever else he goes on about on Twitter, so we're going to hopefully get him on.
He-goats? What the fuck is that?
Or we'll be... All will be revealed next week, Andy. Dr. Joseph Ajayo, he's quite the character on Twitter. I don't know how he'll come across on the pod, but we'll wait and see anyway. Talking of characters on the pod, Jason Chukwu's in the chat. Shout out to you, Jason, plus everybody else. New incentive coming up for anybody who wants to support the show. New incentive, everybody. From here on in, head on over to iTunes, leave a review. No longer shall you be left empty-handed. Contact me as soon as you've left a review, and I'll send you a free copy of my book, Carl Frampton, The Rise of the Jackal. Digital copy, rapping Rob Kelly. To everybody who leaves an iTunes review. What about that then?
That's what I'm talking about. Get those iTunes reviews up. You're able to type in that chat every week. Can't go on to iTunes and leave a review. What's the matter with you?
Well said, Rob. Go on over to iTunes, everybody, leave a review, then contact me, email me if you want, Facebook, message, Twitter, whatever the hell you want to do. Let me know what name you left it under. Send me a screenshot if you want to do that, and I shall send you a digital copy of my book that is applicable from now until the end of time every week. If you left one in the past as well, do the same, and I'll send you one as well. It's £6 to buy. Plenty of sales
We
been
mean
made.
like leave a good review though. You're not getting a book for going and leave a good review. That's what we mean. Not like just your own. You know what I mean? Not getting a book for that.
Nothing less than 5 stars would be acceptable, Rob.
5-star, rain or shine, baby.
No, seriously, leave one and let me know, and I'll give you my book. Right. Let's get stuck in, shall we, to the rest of these before we get to Bellew of the Weeks. Makabu's returning, by the way, against Taylor Mabika, WBC International Cruiserweight title. It's in Kinshasa, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I don't know if Hater Dave will be there or not. Makabu has had a couple of wins since he got knocked out by Tony Bellew. Might see him back at world level, might not. Tell me about this Ray Beltran, Jose Pedraza fight, Dave. Isaac Dogbo on the undercard against Hidenori Atake. This could be a decent fight, actually, on ESPN.
I'm kind of disappointed in Dogbo getting that shit fight after his big statement against, who was it, Ramirez?
Who, Dogbo? No, it was the Jesse Magdaleno.
Magdaleno, yeah. I'm getting MMA and boxing confused. Jesse Ramirez. Jesse Magdaleno, yeah, that was a cool win, and now he's whatever, we'll see what happens, but yeah, you would assume he would win next week. That guy, if I remember rightly, that guy was tough against Scott Quigg, wasn't he?
Certainly was.
Yeah, and I remember the commentator saying, countering punches, that's what you get here at world level, as though it was some brilliant challenge. The main event, yeah, it's a fairly good matchup. I've never been too enamored with Beltran, and I think he's definitely on the downslide now. He's had some close ones and I think his punch resistance might be going a bit, but he should have enough to deal with Pedraza, because Pedraza is not a big puncher. He is active though, so Beltran probably has to win by stoppage, I would think, or drop him a couple times. Pedraza's going to pile up the points on his head.
Also next week, William Monroe Jr. returns against Emmanuel Alim. That could be a fun fight, actually. Jamonte Clark, few people keeping an eye on him. Jamal James, Caleb Truax, Antonio Russell, one of the many Russells. This is the bantamweight version. USA Fox Sports 1, Warriors Boxing are promoting on behalf of the PBC. Ronnie Clark is down to defend his IBF European bauble against David Oliver Joyce, MTK, next Friday night. I thought Clark was going in against Sam Bowen, so I don't know if that fight's still taking place. If it is, it's a really good fight. Would fancy Joyce probably to win that one. Gabe, before we go on to Bellew of the Week, so unless I'm completely missing something, this is the end of our previews for next week. Dogbo, Atake, Beltran, Pedraza. Gabe, what do you think?
I'm with Dave. I think Beltran should win pretty easily. And Dogbe, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't win. He's actually a little bit better than I thought he was, just based off the Magdaleno fight. I mean, I think I've mentioned before that I thought Magdaleno was really good. I used to have tons of his fights early on. They put him on some of the top-ranked cards, and Solo Boxeo, I think, a long time back whenever he was still kind of coming up. And so I've been watching the kid for a while, Jesse Magdaleno. So whenever Dogbe came in and beat him like he did, I was pretty surprised. So, I think Dogbe's better than I gave him credit for before that fight. I went back and watched a few of his other fights, and he's not a bad fighter at all. Definitely not what I thought he was. So, overall, I think Dog Bay should win. It should be a pretty standard weekend. I don't see anything shocking happening in either one of those two fights. I think it's good. I think the Beltran fight is more of a setup fight for the Lomachenko fight later on. So, it's one of those things, but should be pretty nondescript. I mean, it's one of those things. And then you didn't mention the Hugo Ruiz return either.
Yeah.
So I figured I'd throw that one out there for my Mexican brothers out there. He came back, looked decent in his first fight in almost 2 years. Same kind of style he always has, fighting a lower level opponent. So his jab and stuff looked a little bit more effective than it has been when he's been at world level. Got knocked out by Hasegawa out there in Japan. So, but I was excited to see him back because he had a lot of good fights, a lot of enjoyable fights. If you got a chance to watch him in some of his top opponents and world title fights, good stuff there. I think he did the the WBC Bantam and WBC Bantam, and I think the WBA Super Bantam. Could have those backwards. So he's been a title holder before, but seeing him back after, I think, just about 2 years off was pretty good too. So I give that a shout out. The fight wasn't all that spectacular. It was only an 8-rounder, but decent show from him to come back after a long layoff.
Yeah, welcome back, Hugo Ruiz. One person I was expecting back, I know I say this every week, after a long layoff was Kurt Ward. We were wondering, was he going to be like Andre Ward coming back after his legal battles? Maybe George Foreman's second run at the heavyweight titles. Turns out it was more like Riddick Bowe against Gene Pucal, or maybe Ron Lyle coming back 15 years later. No Kurt Ward this week, everybody. We shall endeavour to get him on next week. Smido is shot to bits, doesn't want to pay for pay-per-views, he says. He's a casual, he's close to quitting the sport. As for the Guru, don't know what's happened to him. I was going to play a clip this evening, actually, from Shutdown Benson on Twitter, hashtag Shutdown Benson. I went to tweet this gentleman to confirm the episode that needed to be cut, but I couldn't find him anywhere. It appears that he's been iced from Twitter. Why am I talking about this, you might wonder? Well, it's strange times. No, this guy called Shutdown Benson. He's been. It's a separate handle. Wants to get Benson shut down, but he's been cut off, Andy. And the point I was going to make was there's thousands and thousands of accounts apparently have been removed lately, including Brian King, including Porky, iced like Alex Jones. The Guru's still there. What's going on, Andy? They're going to kick us all off Twitter now?
Somebody told me it was something to do with the accounts that were. See, like your account was getting deleted, then you were trying to kind of get back on and create new accounts. I think that's the accounts is getting iced. The other thing was I was going to ask. Obviously, my mind's foggy, guys. I just want to hit my cot now. I'm so tired. Just move on for me. I fucking forgot anyway.
Andy's shot to shit, man. He's like current version James Toney. Let's go on to the value of the weeks and get out of here. Then do everybody a favour. Not much on next week, as I said. So we'll have a few clips, maybe, if anybody wants any discussion points, questions I've got sent in over the last few weeks. We'll all get dealt with next week when we've got more time to let them breathe. First value of the week nomination comes in. Charles Martin talking to Boxing Scene. This was recommended to me by Boxing Brave. Charles Martin said, "Joshua never saw me. I'm getting my belt back." Yeah, of course you are, Charles. This is a good one. Sent in by Simon Alevy over on Facebook Messenger. He was looking through Sky TV one morning at 7:30 a.m, wondering what he was going to watch, and he saw Boxing Gold 2017 come up. What on earth would that be, you might think? Well, it says, a look back at some classic boxing action. Here, Great Britain's Kell Brook defends his IBF welterweight crown against Jojo Dan, Frankie Gavin, and Kevin Bizier. Boxing Gold, everybody.
The trifecta.
Ken, something you actually need to go into that boxing catch up, by the way, and just see how many actual shit fighters that come up. Paul Smith's actually on the fucking catalogue, man. That's how fucking bad that is.
Jesus Christ.
No Boxing Gold for the lads, Rob and Andy. Bet365 have been nominated by Mark Payman. Apparently they were re-quoting some spoof Tony Bellew quotes as serious. So they've been nominated for that. Talking to Tony Bellew quotes, he's been nominated by Moz X. "No one will ever school me," says Tony. "Yes, I can lose as I'm only human, but no man in boxing gloves is going to school me. I've been through much more than this young man knows or understands. Let's see what happens when I get him. Can he get off the floor to win? I know I can. He's talking about Usyk, by the way. Boxing Boy has nominated Belly of the Week for good old Spencer Fearon.
It'll actually shock me if that fight happens. Bellew said before he doesn't want like tough fights. He wants big fights. He wants big money fights. Usyk, I mean, he's really good, but he's not like a huge name. Like Bellew can make more money, you'd think, just like going against Dillian White or just like angling for some other heavyweight. You know,
I think he was, wasn't he? I think he was like he was trying to get the Fury fight. He was trying to get like different fights, but like Dillian White like was probably a realistic one for Eddie Hearn to throw the two of them in, easy, make a pay-per-view, easy, have them like shouting at each other in the press conference. But like I think White's looking upwards now, like isn't he, at a title? Like, so I don't know.
So, yeah. It just seems like I mean he's gonna get schooled.
1,000,000%.
They're talking about it happening, Dave, early November, they reckon.
Well, fair play to Tony though if he does take that, because you know he's got guts. You know, he'll take the fight, and that's a fight he does not need to take.
Yep, spot on. Boxing Boy nomination for good old Spencer Fearon on the Toe for Toe podcast. I haven't cut it this week, unfortunately, but he said that Tony Bellew is the most improved fighter in British boxing history. I couldn't think of any alternatives to contradict Mr. Fearon, so we'll take it at that. Danny Elliott, quite the character, this guy. He was having back and forwards with all sorts of luminaries. All the names on Twitter, you had Babs, John Evans got involved, Seven Wolves, all the faces that you see on a regular basis if you're on Twitter. We're all getting stuck in. Andy was there as well on this Danny Elliott, this young guy. He's a big Matchroom FC fan. And he was going on about how bad. This is where my little Frank Warren rant actually spawned from. He was adamant that Frank's stable was so much weaker than Eddie's. The production value on BT was so shit. He was moaning about pay-per-view and all these type of things. Danny Elliott, Elliott_1995, working in his Mayfair office, he said, in his suit. I don't know whether he was delivering the tea or emptying the dustbins or what, but anyway, Danny Elliott.
He was saying, for example, oh, Eddie's got the best stable, and he fucking rhymed off Arthur Paterbe. Paterbe was not a fucking Hearn fighter. He's just fighting on the Zan, for fuck's sake. He's still with the Canadians.
Could be a front runner then, this Danny Elliott. You saw him in action, didn't you?
I did, aye. Fucking absolute tosser.
Here's another strong one. Chris Elliott, talking to the Elliots, he sent in a nomination for Barry Awad, aka Kid Galahad. Hashtag clean sport, says Barry. He then put up a picture of his piss samples for VADA testing. Paragon of the sport when it comes to PED, older Barry.
What did he expect the response to that to be? Like, oh yeah, props to you. Like, what a good man you are. Your brother did spike your drink. We all know you never did anything wrong, Barry.
Dave, if we took a piss sample of you right now, would you come back clean or not?
I would probably come full of antibodies from this cold.
I definitely wouldn't.
There'd be traces of flipping piss in your alcohol stream, Andy, or whatever.
I've actually got heart lager thrown through my veins at the minute, mate.
I'd like to think so for that £14 that you got fleeced.
I know.
Belfast is an expensive city, though, dude. To get you with a mask and a striped jumper up there, like it's a tough one. Like,
aye, give me a balaclava at the same time, mate. We'll go on some heists at the same time.
I'm fucking wearing a balaclava in Belfast.
You could have done me one last night with that rain pissing down.
Oh, what, mate? I'd need to wrung it out though eventually, within a matter of minutes.
Has it ever rained at any of your open air concerts, Rob? Has anyone ever got completely soaked?
Might have got soaked, baby, but it wasn't from the rain. You know what I mean? No, I can't think. I remember being on stage, and I'm going to do a huge name drop there. I remember being on stage when Jay-Z performed at Oxygen over here, and it was absolutely torrential for the whole day. And me and Bleak were backstage. We looked at it. We were like, I'd rather be up here than down there. So that was a good day. Like, but no, not really on me.
Dave, are you going to chuck something in there?
I was just going to say, balaclava in that kind of rain's like getting waterboarded. The same principle.
Shout out to a friend of mine, Oren Crumley. He comes down from Derry to watch the fights, and he was looking for his seat last night, and he couldn't understand where he was sitting. Then he found out eventually that big John Fury was sitting in his seat. He says, "Oh, I think I'll just go and sit somewhere else until my seat becomes available."
Well, I wanted to keep his eyeball.
Right, back to the value of the weeks. Dobson _boxbet has nominated Paulie Malignaggi. Do I have to say any more? We know what he's going on about again. Colin Roberts has nominated Joseph Ajayo. He's coming on the pod next week, Colin, so you'll probably have more nominations. Sporting Icons. I don't know what on earth is going on with them. They've got very matchroom heavy. Max Stoke has nominated them, so has Josh Langley. Alex Smith has nominated the Pound for Pound boxing podcast. Both Spencer and Jake talking about Frotch Groves 1 having a go at the stoppage by Howard Davis. Said it over and over again. Fucking casuals. Lol, says Alex Smith. Howard Davis. Howard Foster, I think they're referring to. Steve-O, Baldy Bastard Steve, is back on Twitter. He's nominated Michael Benson. Benson tweeted out last night after Christopher Rosales stopped Paddy Barnes. Rosales stops Barnes and now has got to be right up there as a contender for Fighter of the Year as things stand. Both he and Alexander Usyk currently hold 2 big wins on away soil in 2018. I can sort of see where Benson's coming with that one, Andy. Maybe give him a pass now?
No.
Okay. Ben Thomas,
No.
amongst many other people, has nominated Steve Bunce's top 10 British heavyweight list. Anthony Joshua at 1, Dillian White at 2, Hughie Fury at 3, Tony Bellew at 4, Derek Chisora at 5, Tyson Fury at 6, Sam Sexton at 7, Dave Allen at 8, Daniel Dubois at 9, and Joe Joyce at 10. Ryan Songalia put up a little video on Twitter. Who did it better, Tyson Fury or Muhammad Ali? Fury doing the moves in that fight. Mohamed Mia nominated him, Ryan Songalia, that is, for Bellew of the Week. Tottenham Boxing nominated John Rawling for calling Josh Warrington Luke Warrington. Cholo, that's Andy, has nominated Pure Forms Andy for blaming BT for sanctioning body politics. Here we go again. BT Sport need to do better. This is a joke. How can any governing body sanction a world title fight with this joker? 3 years out, 2 fights, and then a possible world title fight is a total piss take. It's all BT's fault, Andy.
Exactly. I mean, that was an absolute casual comment. Like, I mean, how the fuck can you blame a TV station for sanctioning body politics? I mean, fuck. You had Kell Brook come back in at 154, gets dropped right in at number 3 in WBC rankings, right? Where's the fucking outcry about that? Oh, is it because it's on a Frank Warren show? Is that the reason why we're having a go at fucking Tyson Fury? Fuck off.
This
Fuck
guy's
off,
going the
says
right way about finding out about it, though. You know what I mean? He's tweeting the television station. He's definitely going to get an answer.
Tweet at BT Sport. If you want to see any more casual comments, plenty flying in. They'll all be over on facebook.com/boxing asylum. Want to get out of here because I want to save Andy. Go to get him on the IV drip as soon as possible. Matt Price has been nominated by quite a few different people, too many to name. Matt says the only person that's been robbed with the Fury Wilder fight is Dillian White. Absolutely fucking shocking. Wilder can't beat him. Fury nowhere near ready for him. When was the last time either of them mentioned White's name? He's the true contender, not Fury. 2 bums, then got a title shot.
Shut that soft ass shit up. All that soft talking. I know you can do it, man. You got the. Man, shut that soft ass shit up against me. Him right here.
Sorry, guys.
I think AB said it best, Rob, to be honest with you. Shout out to AB. Wouldn't be Bellew of the Week without him.
Those words were ever uttered.
Dave going in on Broner there. Let's go in on RB Boxing. We're coming toward the end now. They've been nominated by Darren Cope. Barry Jones apparently was talking about oft-beaten journeyman Willie Warburton last night. He's a tough man to beat, says Barry Jones. Warburton's lost 137 times. I quite like that one. Daniel Beckham has nominated Steve Lee. Steve Lee said that Shannon Briggs against Dave Allen is box office material if it ever materialised. McKenna has nominated Sky Sports Boxing. A week of pound-for-pound picks all coming your way. Busy week next week, says McKenna. I'm sure it will be. Toby Hines as well has nominated Steve Bunce's top 10 list of heavyweights. Tyson in at number 6 in the whole of the UK, says Toby. Sexton and Allen above Dubois and Joyce. Hughie above his cousin. Bullshit, says Toby. That's all the ones I've got. Dave, do you have any to nominate?
First, I have a question. Who's the lead commentator on BT?
John Rawling.
John Rawling. He said that Deontay Wilder was a southpaw last night.
Did he? Yeah.
Yeah,
Rawling's been in the game for years, so he doesn't make too many mistakes.
Well,
Joe Tessitore as well.
Barry Jones did a good job, I thought.
Yeah. Well, apart from saying that Willie Warburton was tough to beat.
Oh, that was him.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Whoops, indeed. Andy, any from you?
None for me, mate. But I'll nominate Danny Elliott.
Oh, why, good old Danny. What about you, Gabe? Any Bellew of the weeks before we finish up?
Negative.
Negative indeed. No negativity from you, Rob. Any you want to throw in?
Oh yeah, we got to get Saunders for the chicken in Nando's. Like,
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. What happened for anybody who didn't see it?
well, apparently there was some kind of confrontation on Friday night in Nando's in Belfast that it ended in Billy Joe Saunders throwing some Nando's chicken at Deontay Wilder and then legging it out of the Nando's in Hopper Soup by Deontay Wilder's friend, who's the same size as Deontay Wilder, who come out, fell on the floor, slipped on the wet floor, and then Wilder came out, they went down the street. And then they all forgot about it. They're all hugging and kissing there yesterday in one of the videos. So, yeah, but a nomination for that for Saunders and a nomination for Wilder. Someone want to give him a geography lesson. He said in his interview with MJP that he was looking forward to Northern Ireland because he knows it was the capital of Ireland. And then he said,
Yanks in their geography, man, it's just awful.
Yeah, then he goes, some people say that it's Ireland, then someone said Northern Ireland, and he goes, but then someone told me that I had it right the first time.
He's getting into politics.
Right, he's getting into politics unknowingly and then going around Belfast shouting bomb squad. So there has to be a Bellew of the week for that as well. Like, but.
See that Saunders situation came out. They've been funny there actually. Tommy mentioned this other night there. See if when they ran out the restaurant, it'd be funny as fuck if they ran right round to the back door, back through the restaurant, and slapped Wilder in the back of the head and fucked off again.
Yeah, that would have been outrageous.
I didn't see the video. Was this just taking place in Nando's, like on Dublin Road in Belfast?
Aye.
Yeah,
Well, he apparently went up. He apparently went up to Wilder. There's another video kicking about, and he says that he introduced himself and stuff like that. And apparently Wilder says to him about him calling him a racist cunt or something like that. And then it just all kicked off or whatever. And that you can hear Billy Joe Saunders saying, "You want some cornroll with that?" Fucking hell!
Wow.
Right, Danny Elliott for you, Andy. Who are you going for then, Rob?
Oh, Saunders, like, we can't be throwing Nando's chicken at Deontay Wilder in Belfast. Like, what kind of a fucking story is that? Like, yeah, Saunders this week. Like.
A kiss done made up later. I think friend of the pod, Dev from BT, took a video of them kissing and making up. So it's all's well that ends well. Gabe, who are you going for? Gabe, come on. We've got Dr. Joseph Ajayo coming on next week. He's from Texas. You could become our second best Texas contributor. Pressure's on, Gabe. I think he's dead. Hey to Dave Lowback. Who are you going for?
Billy Joe.
Billy Joe as well. I'm going for Barry Jones. I just think that saying that someone who got beaten for the 138th time on the night is a tough man to beat. I know what context he was saying, but it's just funny. So I'm going for Barry Jones. Gabe, final one for you? No.
Yeah, sorry. Had to get a drink.
Go on, Gabe.
I'm going with Billy Joe.
Billy Joe as well. Congratulations to Billy Joe. You are the Bellew of the week. He might not be in the ring too often these days, but he's still winning awards, still winning titles. Final thought of the evening from you, Andy? Dehydrated, ready for the sack?
I want to go at my court, mate. That's what I want to go at.
Just a quick question: is Billy Joe and Andrade, is that signed?
Yes, I think it is.
That's a tough fight for both, actually. Yeah, that's a good fight.
What
Although, of
date
course,
is he?
He'll probably get another fucking injury.
Anybody got a date in the chat? Anybody date for Saunders Andrade off the top of your head?
I think
The fight's in America, is it not?
October, I think.
I've got it up here. Dan Raphael said they're going to meet in the fall. What does that mean, Dave? Is that
It's next
funny speak for autumn?
20th of October, apparently. And the
Right,
TD
okay.
Garden in Boston.
Fall is October, like September, depending on where you're at in the country, I guess, because it.
Strange enough venue, isn't it, Boston, for that one?
It's in Boston. It's at the TD Garden Arena.
It's two
pretty
guys
strange,
who
isn't it, for them?
badly need the exposure and activity.
Yeah, some decent middleweight fights coming up. I know that Derevchenko is fighting Danny Jacobs as well at the end of October, so that's a week later. So yeah, some good middleweight action in October, following off the back of Canelo Golovkin. We'll talk about all that next week. I think we're done for tonight. Thank you everybody for joining us in the chat. Go and hit thumbs up finally before you leave. Our thumbs down wanker hasn't appeared this week, whoever him or her is. So we'll hopefully see them back again next week. Hey to Dave Lowback, always a pleasure to have you on. Andy Patterson. Fair play to you, Andy. I know the state you were in last night. You did well. Tommy, iced, didn't manage to get on, but Andy, stalwart that he is, got on. Gabe, did you want to say something finally there?
No, I just accidentally clicked there.
Thanks for coming on, Gabe. Always good to hear from you. Also, Rob Kelly. And a special thanks to our guest, who was Lee Connolly.
Hey.
Really enjoyed that. What?
Hey, what are you laughing at, Andy?
No, it was Dave who was laughing.
Dave, I should have known.
I'm laughing at Gabe's contributions.
You getting some grief in the chat tonight, Gabe?
I don't know. I'm sure I probably was.
Anyway, let's get out of here. Thank you, Rob Kelly. Thank you to everybody else who's been on. If indeed there was anybody, I was on, Steve Wellings. I'll be back next week. See ya. Bye.